Slaughterhouse is the 6th most downloaded extreme demon in all of Geometry Dash. It currently sits at the number 15 spot on the Pointer Great Demon list and is a milestone in nearly every modern top player's career. It's one of the few levels so iconic that even some non-GD players can recognize it. But how did this happen? How did this level as famous as Bloodlust and Sonic Wave come to be? This video will cover the entire 10-year history of Slaughterhouse, all the way from an old impossible level up to the modern day. Hope you enjoy. Back in 2015, impossible levels were incredibly popular. To put it simply, they were levels so ridiculously hard that it was at the time believed no human would ever be able to beat them. They'd been popularized by creators such as Seri, the creator of Red World, and Salem, the creator of Silent Clubstep, and could easily pull in hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. Cyrillic, a popular impossible level creator, today most well known for his collaboration with Silent Circles, had started working on a new impossible level called Death Angel River. The level primarily consisted of incredibly tight wave clicks, surrounded by dark hellish monsters, and looking back, it seemed quite promising. However, the level was abandoned shortly after its creation. A small creator by the name of Iced Cave, who had recently become friends with Cyrillic after making his first couple of impossible levels, saw the potential in Death Angel River, and asked him if he'd be able to continue work on the level, but Cyrillic refused. Instead, Iced Cave began work on a new level, which at the start was clearly heavily inspired by Death Angel River. As he continued building, however, the level eventually moved away from the dark, gloomy aesthetic. Around halfway through the level, when the music reaches its climax, the background turns grey and you enter an incredibly tight 3x speed wave corridor, which also includes the now famous one-tile wide blue orb swim in the middle. The level then ends with a brutal memory 2-player duel. And this level is of course the original Slaughterhouse. Through his friendship with Cyrillic, Iced Cave would get the level published and shortly after that showcased on Tosh Deluxe's channel. Thanks to the level's new song Stalemate, and its eerie decoration and long build-up, it managed to have one of the most intense atmospheres of any impossible level out there. The level skyrocketed into fame, its showcase today standing at an incredible 1.6 million views. An icon of the impossible levels trend. If you try to look for the original copy of Slaughterhouse, you'll probably end up disappointed, as it has actually been deleted from the servers. This is because Iced Cave's account actually got hacked a little while after the level was released, at which point he deleted all of his levels with the hopes that the hacker would lose interest in his account. While he did eventually get his account back, the damage had already been done. On top of losing all of his levels, Iced Cave would also lose his name for over 5 years, because a person today named I Am Gone had taken it while he was being hacked. Luckily though, countless audio versions of Slaughterhouse and some of his other works had been made, so Iced Cave was able to simply copy one of them and remove all the audio parts before re-uploading the level and putting it to the top of the search list. One small remnant of this can still be found today, as Slaughterhouse actually has an empty space at the end of its name, which Iced Cave likely forgot to remove while removing audio from the level's name. As time went on, however, the community's opinion on impossible levels slowly shifted. People began to get tired of the trend, preferring levels that they could actually play. As Iced Cave's time in the spotlight faded, he moved on, continuing to improve as both a player and, more importantly to our story, creator, releasing levels such as Diamond Blade, Super Hate New World, and Fever Dream. However, while Iced Cave moved on, the rest of the community did not. Slaughterhouse had become so popular it was practically the only thing people knew him for, and as the level began to lose popularity, so did Iced Cave. It was starting to seem like his only legacy in the community was going to be an old low-effort impossible level destined to be forgotten by the community eventually. Iced Cave wasn't going to let this happen though. He was going to change his legacy. He was going to remake Slaughterhouse. Iced Cave had actually already made a sequel to Slaughterhouse, called Slaughterhouse 2. However, neither he nor the community ever took the level too seriously, as it was, how do I say this, not the best. This time though, it's going to be different. He has since improved significantly as a creator, and maybe, just maybe, this time he'd succeed. He first began work on a sequel called Slaughterhouse X, which was basically just Slaughterhouse, with slightly more interesting gameplay. This level, however, never made it past the layout stage. For his second attempt, Iced Cave began work on Unknown, for the first time switching up the song. This level was far different from the other iterations, starting the level with Cube and including a lot more different game modes. This level was, however, also never finished, once again being left as a layout. For his third attempt, Iced Cave decided to start completely from scratch, and on July 6th, 2019, he would upload a layout of his new level, just simply named Slaughterhouse. The level begins with a very slow cube part, with incredibly tight clicks, that even includes a 10-second long completely black screen in the middle. The level then suddenly throws the player straight into a nearly impossible 4x speed wave, ridiculous mini-wave consistency spam, and an even more ridiculous straight fly. Following a short wall part, it's back to the wave, very similar to the first one, followed by an incredibly tight UFO part and even more straight fly. After one final wave part, it suddenly goes back to the beginning, with incredibly tight cube timings before the level finally finishes. Finally, a version of Slaughterhouse Iced Cave was happy with. He began decorating the level, mostly finishing the first half, while changing up some parts of the gameplay, completely overhauling the structuring of the first wave, as well as adding more interesting clicks to the consistency and straight fly. End Level, another creator, filled out a portion of the black screen in the beginning with additional cube gameplay, and Britank88 completely remade the second wave, creating much more interesting structures as well as making a lot of it into mini-wave. As time went on though, Iced Cave got worried the level would become repetitive if he continued the decoration, so he decided to get some help. Iris was chosen to decorate the part of the level that stretched from the UFO to the second long straight fly, which turned out amazing, although a large part of the level still remained undecorated. This would have to wait though, as an issue about the level's song arose. The song Iced Cave had used for New Slaughterhouse, which was a remix of Lost, actually came from a CSGO montage. Upon finding this out, people flooded the video's comment section with Slaughterhouse-related comments, which you should never do, prompting Iced Cave to unlist all of his videos including the song to hopefully calm the situation. Together with End Level and the approval of XVA, the creator of the montage, Iced Cave remastered the song, which he then showed off in a video titled Slaughterhouse Preview 2.5. which to this day remains the oldest public showcase of the level on his main channel. With time though, hype around the level would slowly die out, as no new updates were released. End Level had been picked to decorate the revamped second wave, however after finishing, it just simply wasn't good enough. Even after Deadlock's improved end levels decoration, Iced Cave still wasn't happy. It just simply wasn't what he wanted. He wanted something truly unique that would stand out among all the other hell levels in Geometry Dash. He decided to give River, a relatively small creator at the time, a shot at decorating it, and on April 5th, the community would be blown away. River's part in Slaughterhouse would become by far the most iconic part of the level and one of the most recognizable level parts in all of Geometry Dash. It's praised by the community for its incredible atmosphere, together with its intimidating wave gameplay most likely being the biggest reason for Slaughterhouse's insane popularity. Moving on though, Dr. Cuber was picked to decorate the last part of the drop, which at first turned out interesting, but after some adjustments meant the only part that remained was the final cube, for which Ice Cave chose CD music to decorate. He finished the part in just a single day, meaning the level was finally finished. After the level was merged, FNMO4 recorded the final showcase for Ice Cave. After 6 years, he'd finally have a shot at redefining his legacy. Iced Cave's showcase of Slaughterhouse currently sits at an astounding 25 million views. His most viewed video by far, and one of the most viewed videos in all of Geometry Dash. Absolutely obliterating his old impossible level in every metric. Following its incredible popularity, Slaughterhouse was nerfed from basically impossible level down to around top 5 difficulty, around the same difficulty as Zodiac. Zanny was picked to verify the level, but quickly dropped it as it didn't align with his skillset in the slightest. Instead, the level was handed over to Doggy to verify, who managed to achieve an impressive 51% run from 0, before he moved his focus elsewhere, to his Extreme Demon Alphabet series, which paired with Ice Cave's inactivity, left the level essentially without a verifier for 2 months. To solve this issue, Ice Cave announced on October 15th that the level would not only become a public verification, meaning anyone could try to beat it, but also that it would be buffed back to a top 1. This is even more important, because at this point Tartarus had become the longest running top 1 demon of all time, being the #1 hardest level in the game for nearly 2 years. Many levels had tried to dethrone it, some coming close such as the Golden, which for a while even stood above Tartarus before being moved back down to 2nd place, or Arcturus, which had been verified 2 months earlier, but was yet to receive a rating, meaning it was impossible for it to be placed on the demon list. This top 1 race finally gave the community new hope. Surely, with the combined efforts of so many top players, Tartarus could finally be dethroned. The race began with players such as Trick, Zamasu and Photonic making impressive runs like 49 to 82%, or 51% from 0, although these runs would pale in comparison to what a certain, now infamous player would achieve. SpaceUK was an absolute prodigy in top play. He'd beaten the Golden, the 2nd hardest level in the game, as his 5th demon. No, not 5th list demon, not Extreme Demon, just 5th demon. He could beat top 10 levels like they were nothing. He was so good he seemed almost inhuman. And after only a few days of playing, Space would absolutely obliterate his competition, breezing through the level, reaching the final cube where he died at 92%. And soon after,
I can't react, otherwise I'm gonna cough so much. Oh my god.
he'd done it. After 41,000 attempts and only a week of playing. It seemed too good to be true, but Space had verified Slaughterhouse. It was immediately clear this level was much harder than Tartarus, and the community celebrated this incredible achievement. Then, only 5 days later, Trick verified Firework, another upcoming top 1, and later that same day, both Slaughterhouse and Firework received their rating by RobTop. Arcturus was rated too, but it would end up placing below Taurus for a while, so it's not really important. But now a question arose. Which one was harder? Trick had taken over 234,000 attempts verifying Firework. Months of work put into the level with a promise to its creators he'd verify it as a new top 1. But unfortunately to him, it was not to be. On November 4th, Firework was placed at the number 1 spot on the demon list, dethroning Tartarus, only to be overtaken by Slaughterhouse exactly 18 seconds later. Apparently there were even so many people on Pointer Fate waiting for the changes that Slaughterhouse accidentally ended up placing in every spot from 1 to 10 before getting fixed. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any screenshots of this, but I've seen it in so many different sources I'd be surprised if it wasn't true. But this finally meant that Slaughterhouse had done the impossible. It had dethroned Tartarus. The level had achieved the number 1 spot on the demon list, and after SpaceUK's completion of Firework, in only 30,000 attempts, he confirmed that the level was in fact much easier than Slaughterhouse. From this point onward, after receiving its first victory doggy on December 19th, Slaughterhouse would stand alone at the top, unchallenged through its sheer difficulty, for about 10 more days. Sakupen Circles was a remake of an old impossible level of the same name, and on December 19th, Diamond would verify it. It was placed at the number 1 spot just a few days later, dethroning Slaughterhouse after a mere 2 months. However, in March, Slaughterhouse would be moved back up to the number 1 spot, retaking its position as the number 1 demon. After becoming Sakupen Circle's second victor, Space made it clear that it was going to be tougher than that to dethrone Slaughterhouse. In April, both Zoink and Cursed would become Slaughterhouse's second and third victors, respectively. Although the same month, another level would rise to challenge the number 1 spot. Another old impossible level, which Exton had hacked back in 2018, was legitimately verified by Cursed, and this level was of course Abyss of Darkness. It would take a month, but eventually the level got its rating, and it was placed at the number 1 spot, above Slaughterhouse. But it didn't last for very long. After completing the level, Space wasn't even sure if Abyss of Darkness was worthy of second place, let alone first. And the level was swiftly moved down to the number 2 spot, since after all, SpaceUK's word is the law. In late July, Zoroxy became Slaughterhouse's 4th victor, and also the last victor I'll name, since half the video would just become me saying random names. Although something else much more important happened around this time as well. Iced Cave and Salient had updated Silent Clubstep, nerfing it down to a more humanly possible level, which of course led to multiple people immediately trying to verify it. And in the end, Paco would become the one to do it.
I verified it!
Oh my god.
What?
What? I was watching that.
This was probably the most iconic level from the entire impossible levels trend, and now, after many years, somehow it was verified by a real person. This level was so ridiculously difficult that there was no question in anyone's mind where it was going to place. This was obviously going to become the new top 1 demon in the game. It wasn't even in the top 3. Zoink's quick completion of the level only confirmed its position, and Slaughterhouse was left at the top spot once again. However, while Silent Clubstep had failed, there was still one more level on the horizon. Acheron was a collaboration hosted by Ryamu and Riot, the creator of Tartarus. While the level wasn't an official sequel to Tartarus, it was very clearly still inspired by it, with the majority of the two levels sharing at least some resemblance. Many people had tried to take on the level, first the Wolves, then one Alpha Helix, but it would be a certain player I've already mentioned previously who'd be the one to do it. Zoink was an incredible player. He had jumped from Bloodbath to Zodiac, the at the time number 6 demon, and while it wasn't as impressive as what Space had claimed to have done, this was still a ridiculously impressive feat, and it was clear if anyone would be the player to dethrone Space, it would be Zoink. On August 27th, after buffing the level significantly, Zoink verified Acheron. This level had taken him over 3 months, 72,000 attempts and over 5 deaths past 90%. This level wasn't just a new top 1, it was a Slaughterhouse killer. Slaughterhouse was harder. For a week. On October 7th, Acheron was moved up past Slaughterhouse. SpaceUK would quickly make progress on the level, becoming the first victor later that same month. He insisted that the level, while still being incredibly hard, and a definite top 2, just wasn't as hard as his crowning achievement, Slaughterhouse. But for once, his opinion couldn't pull Acheron down. Slaughterhouse was simply not as hard as Acheron. Doggy would become the second victor in early November, confirming that it was indeed far more difficult than Slaughterhouse, and by this point even SpaceUK had given up the fight, admitting that Acheron was in fact the more difficult level. Which meant that after nearly a year, Slaughterhouse had finally been dethroned. Permanently. In early 2023, Zoink began work on a new verification, Avernus, a sort of sequel to the Golden. He quickly made progress on it, verifying the level in the middle of March, and claimed the level to be anywhere from 5th to 2nd on the demon list, and eventually it got placed at number 2, below Acheron but above Slaughterhouse, for the first time pushing the level out of the top 2. And later that same day, Silent Lobstep was moved up 3 spots from 6th up to 3rd place, leaving it too above Slaughterhouse. But little did the community know, this was only the beginning of the end. April 25th, 2023. In a video titled Exposing SpaceUK, Paco would claim that Space had hacked some of his most recent completions, due to the completions consistently having very inconsistent click delays, as well as a completely unnecessary click in the middle, which she thought could be him activating a macro, which basically meant that the majority of the level would just play itself. And later that same day, Space would make a tweet, admitting to having hacked every single significant achievement since his completion of the entire main list, through Sephiroth, which was nearly an entire year earlier. He claimed to have started hacking because of quote-unquote losing interest in the game, but this would soon be proven false. His hacked completions included Aerial Gleam, Oblivion, The Hallucination, Kyuki, Abyss of Darkness, and finally, Acheron. But there's more. The creator of Zbot, the mod Space had used, had implemented a small 64 pixel change to the end screen when you beat a level using the mod. And when the list team looked back at some of Space's older completions, it turned out that it wasn't just the last year's completions he had hacked. SpaceUK had hacked every single completion since the Golden, including his verification of Slaughterhouse. It's hard to overstate the effect this had on the community, but if you want more info, Aeon Air made a great video about it, which I'll link in the description. But to focus back on the topic of this video, it turns out Doggy had actually been the real verifier of Slaughterhouse all along. Zoink was its first victor, Cursed its second, Zroxy its third. Firework had actually been the level to dethrone Tartarus, and should have been the top 1 for over 2 months. But this also meant was that SpaceUK's opinions on the Demon List rankings were, to put it simply, complete bullshit. He'd been the most influential top player on pointer crate for so long that who knows what the top 10 was actually supposed to look like. Earlier that year, a player by the name of W. Popov had become known for being the youngest victor of Slaughterhouse, beating it in January at the age of 13. 5 months later, he became the 4th legitimate victor of Acheron in the world record attempt at the time of 69,000 attempts. It was clear Popov had a bright future ahead of him in top play. So what did he do with that? He beat Slaughterhouse again. And again. And again. Today his name is synonymous with the level thanks to his countless achievements surrounding it. The first of these coming in October, with Popov verifying unnerfed Slaughterhouse in just a single day. This being the version originally released for the verification race, which SpaceUK ended up nerfing in quite a few aspects. According to the hardest achievements list, this would have actually been the second hardest completion in all of Geometry Dash at the time, even harder than Acheron and Avernus. And also in November, Zoink would end up verifying a green version of Slaughterhouse called Christmas House, which I just wanted to mention because I think it's funny. In December, Slaughterhouse would once again fall further down the list, but not because of a new level. Abyss of Darkness and Kyuki were both moved above Slaughterhouse, dropping it all the way to 6th place. And the pain didn't end there, as Zoink had actually verified a new top 1 in September, called Tidal Wave. However, it would take a ridiculous 5 months for it to get raided by RobTop, at which point it was immediately placed at number 1, pushing Slaughterhouse down to 7th place. After becoming the second victor of Tidal Wave, Popov would focus back on Slaughterhouse with a new goal. And soon after, on April 27th, Popov would achieve his most famous completion to date, Slaughterhouse 3 times in a row. You're hearing me correctly. The level that just 3 years earlier seemed impossible had now been beaten 3 times in a row without a single death in between. And this is still Popov's hardest achievement today. Two weeks later, Doki and Ice Cave would host a tournament in which 6 players would race to see who could accumulate the most points by reaching far into the chosen level. This level, of course, being Slaughterhouse. The players were Tyler, Nethermind, Abdil Devil, Aiden TR, Trick, and Popov. Of course, Popov ended up winning the event, after beating the level a ridiculous 17 times in just a single hour. Turning our heads back to the Demon List, another one of Zoink's verifications, Tunnel of Despair, had throughout the year slowly been moved up from the number 20 spot all the way up to number 5, passing Slaughterhouse and pushing it down yet another spot. In October, Nullscapes would place at number 3, pushing Slaughterhouse down to 9th place. In November, Spectre would push Slaughterhouse down to number 10. And finally, on December 23rd, Anathema would place at number 6, pushing Slaughterhouse out of the top 10 after 3 years. And with the placements of Subterminal Point, Andromeda, and Every End, as well as Bubawamba moved up past it, we find Slaughterhouse where it sits today, on Monday 26th, 2025, at the number 15 spot on the Pointer Crate Demon List, after reaching its 100th Victor gaming bite in the middle of April. Slaughterhouse has over the years become one of the most iconic and atmospheric levels in Geometry Dash, inspiring countless levels such as Cosmos, Injury, and many more. You can find players jumping to the level anywhere from extended list demons to deadlocked, yes that's real. And its initial showcase continues to garner millions of views each year. However, with Slaughterhouse having fell down 8 spots over the last year, I think it's safe to say that we're yet to reach the skill ceiling of Geometry Dash, and that one day, Slaughterhouse will be found at the top of the Legacy list. But this is not the end of Slaughterhouse's story. In the middle of 2022, Ice Cave released a showcase of a new layout, called Grief. But this wasn't just any layout. This was going to be a remake of the original 2015 Slaughterhouse. And on August 12th, 2023, the official decorated showcase was released, with Doggy set as the verifier, and the level aiming to become the next top one in the game. Doggy has now been verifying the level for over a year, with his best runs being 80%, 70 to 92%, and 25 to 100%. And with Doggy's determination, will likely end up a top 1, even if it isn't the one to dethrone Tidal Wave. And with that, this video is finished. Huge thanks to you for watching all the way to the end. Any support is really appreciated, as this is my first video in this new style of content. I also wanted to thank FNMO4 for his amazing video covering Slaughterhouse's history up to 2021. My goal with this video was just to make an updated version. If you did enjoy, consider subscribing, and goodbye.